Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Quick question for you all. Do you believe in coincidence? And the only reason I ask that is I've noticed quite a few strange occurrences recently. For example, I'll let you into a little secret. There is no master plan of how I select and schedule in a guest every day on this daily podcast. Because I kind of love the randomness of it all and the eclectic mix of guests that it provides. So I simply open up my calendar and let people book a slot if I find their story interesting. But I've noticed, despite doing this, I seem to get a run of similar industries or guests. Like some weeks, for example, I can have a run of cybersecurity, others AI, others machine learning, and other weeks crypto. And they just seem to fall that way. Maybe, just maybe, it's the universe pointing me in the right direction to add a little structure and narrative. But enough of my random thoughts, lack of filters and self-editing. Let's get on with today's show. Now, you may remember a few days ago I spoke to Tara Kelly from Splice Software about the dangers of handing over the keys to your brand's voice to digital voice assistants such as Amazon Alexa, Microsoft Cortana, Apple Siri, Google Home, and the list goes on and on. So with voice being a very hot topic at the moment, I wanted to explore it further. So when I read Rand Hindi from Snips AI wanted to destroy Alexa, he, pretty much truly grabbed my attention and set my tech spidey sensors into overdrive. If you've ever turned to a voice assistant to ask it a quick question for a little help, and let's face it, who hasn't? I strongly urge you to listen to Rand's conversation with me today. He offers so many invaluable insights, and as far as I'm concerned, pure gold. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Paris in France so we can speak with Rand Hindi from Snips AI. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Rand. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Rand. I'm the CEO of Snips AI. To give you a little bit of background, I've been coding since I was 10 years old, created my first company when I was 14, ended up doing a PhD in artificial intelligence when I was 21. Then after that, decided to really focus on this intersection of AI and privacy. How can you start building machine learning technologies that don't really require access to personal data? I was an advisor to the French government on their AI policies. And for the past 5 years, I've been running the largest AI company in France called Snips, building voice assistants with a very strong focus on personal data privacy.
Wow, coding from 10 years old. So I take it that tech was in your family from an early age then?
Interestingly enough, no.
Oh.
My mom was in fashion and my dad was a currency economist.
Wow, complete opposites. Now, one of the main reasons I invited you on the show today and why I'm excited to speak to you is because you believe that we need to make technology disappear and for it to be invisible. And when I saw this, I thought, at last, because the average user, this is probably to the chagrin of a lot of techies out there, but the average user doesn't care about how blockchain or AI works. They just want tech to make their life easier. That's their only motivation. So before we get too techie, can you just tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind Snips and what you set out to achieve from the very beginning?
Have you already felt, for example, your phone vibrating in your pocket, took it out and there was nothing happening?
Yeah.
So this is something that's called a phantom vibration. What people would realize is 9 out of 10 people experience that. Do you know another name for it?
No.
Hallucination.
Oh.
But you see, that for me is pretty scary because when you think about it, we somehow got so conditioned by technology that we're now making up things that don't exist.
Yeah.
And so when you pull that thread and start, extrapolating what the world will look like once you have 100 billion devices as opposed to, just a smartphone and a computer each today, it becomes a pretty scary picture. Are we going to get to a point where we're so manipulated by devices around us that we spend our days effectively making up stuff because we're just receiving too much input? And so I see AI and AI assistance as a very good solution to that problem, because if you could start communicating with machines as effortlessly as you do with humans, using language, for example, then you no longer need to make any effort to use technology to a point where it becomes like electricity. Everything around you is a device. Everything around you is connected, but you don't even think about it anymore. And because of that, you don't have this sort of feeling of being overwhelmed technologically. And literally what I believe is that AI assistants, if you include them in every device around you, can literally make technology disappear from your consciousness.
Wow. I mean, on your website as well, which I was just looking at, it beautifully highlights how we got where we are today and how, like you said there, technology has become a central part of our modern lives. And as someone that loves TV shows like Black Mirror and maybe the darker side of tech, can you tell that story to the listeners and also that darker side that has emerged as a result? And ultimately, why your goal was initially to destroy Alexa? Sounds incredibly sinister and exciting at the same time.
Well, the thing with technology is not just that it should be extremely easy to use, is that it should also be very safe to use. The problem, however, is that most of the companies today that were created back in the 90s have the wrong mindset around data privacy. Back in the 90s, you were not really producing that much personal data. Thinking about it, Amazon had a bit of data, Google had a bit of data, but really if someone accessed it, it was no big deal. It wouldn't really give them much of a picture of who you are. However, the more personal data and the more connected we became, the more those companies started collecting data about us and creating an accurate profile. Think about it a little bit like a puzzle. In the beginning, you have a few pieces in, you don't really know what a puzzle is supposed to represent. But the more pieces fly into the puzzle, the more accurate that picture becomes. It's exactly the same thing with personal data. Every piece of data is a piece of the puzzle that's just creating a more and more complete profile. And today, those companies have so much data about us. They know so much about who we are that a breach of privacy, they get hacked, or if this gets accessed by government, the breach of privacy for your life and the consequences are enormous. But it even goes further. People can use this to manipulate you, because if I know everything about who you are, I know exactly what I should tell you to make you believe something different. This is what happened with Trump and Cambridge Analytica. So for me, the question of personal data privacy is not about hiding stuff. It's fundamentally about preventing mass surveillance, mass hacking, and mass manipulation. And that, in the end, is about giving people more freedom. So when I say I want to destroy Alexa, what I really mean is that I want to destroy this old mindsets around personal data privacy and show that you can create alternative where personal data is no longer the central piece of the puzzle, but the product itself becomes a central piece of the puzzle.
So many great points raised there. And I was chatting with, I think it was Tara Kelly from Splice Software yesterday, who was also talking about voice being the most natural interface in the world, but equally sending out a huge warning about how brand voice, or any business's brand voice, needs to be human. But what many businesses are doing are actually just delivering that brand voice through Siri's voice, through Google or Alexa, and actually they're handing over their entire brand voice. And that's dangerous too, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's a reason why those American giant companies, and Chinese now, by the way, are so bullish on voice. Yeah. Because voice assistant captures both the input and the output. So you're basically intermediating every single service that someone would use. If someone wants to purchase, groceries using voice, you know exactly what they're buying. You can control where they buy it from. And don't be fooled. The reason why Amazon is pushing Alexa so much is not because they're hoping to help you solve problems with voice. It's because they want to use Alexa as a massive data aggregator and intermediation platform so that they can know everything people are doing and use this to sell more stuff to you. That's it. Amazon's business with Alexa is not to help you. It's to target you. It's to aggregate your data about your personal life. And as a company, if you're using Alexa, you're giving Amazon the keys to your users and to your business through this data. Amazon on Amazon.com has 90 brands that they've created. Do you know how they pick it?
No.
You just look at what works.
Yeah.
Don't you think they're going to do the same with Alexa and apps that people built for it? Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting times ahead. I think it's so important that we discuss this now, because I think so many people are just completely oblivious and filling their homes with these, which are essentially Trojan horses, aren't they?
Well, pretty much. It's not that they're oblivious. I think everybody knows that privacy is an issue. It's just that they don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, it's always going to be convenience over privacy. The goal here is not to offer a lesser product that protects your privacy. The goal here is to offer a better product that also guarantees privacy. And this is really the challenge. At the end of the day, you're still building a consumer product, and that has to work. And I think this is something very key in blockchain in general. A lot of people in blockchain are not really thinking consumer. They're thinking blockchain people. But what we really need to think now is consumer. How can we build and use blockchain for products that are going to be usable by people who know nothing about blockchain? That's the key, right?
Absolutely. So over to Snips, and that is the first private by design, open source, decentralized network of voice assistants for our homes. But can you just offer an overview of exactly what it is and how it will solve the problems we just talked about?
So Snips AI is our first consumer product. We've been selling a voice technology at Snips as a B2B enterprise solution now. And we're creating this new consumer products where we're trying to use blockchain plus other forms of really cool cryptography to solve what Alexa cannot solve: privacy and openness. There are multiple issues with Alexa. The first one is whenever you talk to it, your voice gets sent to Amazon servers to be processed. The second problem is that as a developer, whenever I'm publishing an application for Alexa on the Amazon store, not only does Amazon have access to all of the data of people talking to my app, they can also kill me overnight. And so we're trying to solve both these issues through blockchain. For privacy, we're doing two really amazing things. First, whenever you're speaking to the Snips assistant, your voice gets analyzed directly on the device you're talking to without anything happening in the cloud. We don't even have a server at Snips to process your voice. So this guarantees privacy by design. However, to keep improving the quality of the assistant, we're also building a new, really amazing technology where we can use decentralized machine learning plus some form of encryption called multi-party computation to improve the quality of the AI using encrypted data from users. So you would have the exact same advantages of a centralized system without any kind of privacy implication. And finally, to guarantee to our developer community that we Snips cannot censor the content of the App Store and that we cannot decide who can build what, the entire App Store is running as a decentralized token creator registry. The community alone controls the content of the App Store and decides what people can build for Snips.
So am I also right in saying that anyone listening to us talk here can actually download the open source Snips SDK and play with it on a Raspberry Pi, a microphone and a speaker? And companies listening can also partner with Snips to embed a voice assistant in their own devices too, is that right?
Absolutely. You have to think about it as an ecosystem. We're creating an ecosystem for voice. Just like Android, can be integrated by companies into their own, handsets or used by consumers directly. It's the same thing with Snips. We have our own consumer product, but we also have a B2B offering. And for developers, we've created a very specific suite of tools to enable them to create their own voice assistant and publish this, app on an app store for people to use. We currently have close to 16,000 developers using our platform, which makes us one of the largest community of developers working on voice today.
So are you aiming to compete directly with Amazon Echo and Google Home speakers in that B2C space? And if you are, when are you planning on releasing them? Sounds incredibly exciting.
My goal, as I said earlier, is very simply to destroy Alexa.
Yeah.
That product should not exist. It's the worst that has been built on the internet for the past 20 years. I really believe that it represents everything that's wrong with personal data, with how people use personal data today, right? And we really need to offer an alternative to that. We're competing with them. I wouldn't say we're competing heads on because we're coming from a different angle. Yes, we're building the same kind of product, Yes, our product is going to be, as good or even better than what Alexa currently is. However, the angle we're taking of guaranteeing privacy by design is so radically different from what Amazon is doing that effectively the bet we're making is on privacy. Is privacy going to be a significant choice factor for consumers that they will choose a new brand that offers privacy and a great product versus an established brand that offers a great product but no privacy whatsoever?
So where does the ICO fit into this? And why did you choose that token route over, let's say, a credit card transaction? And ultimately, what's the role of the token?
We couldn't really build that without a token, to be honest. Yeah. Just a decentralized app store. The only way for us to guarantee to our developer community that nobody would censor the app store and that nobody would be able to shut down their application was to make it decentralized. And so creating a token was not really a question of currency. For us, it was more a question of incentivizing our community to self-organize and curate the content of our app store. So it's much more a question of acting as a glue between the different people involved in our ecosystem rather than acting as a pure currency. And this is, I think, really something fundamental about tokens versus cryptocurrencies. Tokens are not just currencies. They're a tool of product design which enable you to create things in a way that is completely different than what we could do otherwise, right? It's a way for people to effectively come up together as a community and act in a very specific way.
So as the world of tech is continuing to move at breakneck speed, here in 2018, many people listening will have it in their homes, Amazon Alexa, Google Home, or the new Apple device, and probably slowly questioning how much of their privacy is actually being sacrificed in the name of convenience. And I'm already noticing more and more people switch away from Google Chrome and onto Brave browser as a result of that. But can you help listeners visualize how different you envision things to be in, let's say, 18 months in the year 2020? And maybe paint a picture for an alternative that you want to create?
You can no longer ignore privacy.
Yeah.
Facebook lost 100 billion market cap in one day because of Cambridge Analytica. Any company today that says that privacy is irrelevant is bound to die in the future. The only way you can survive is if you've got a monopoly. So established companies, Amazon in e-commerce, they're never going to go away. Google in search, they're never going to go away. Even Facebook with social network, they're here to stay. It's very hard to move everybody. But for products like voice assistants or browsers, where there is no network effect, where the cost of switching is zero, that's a different story. Because switching voice assistant is literally just unplugging the old one and plugging in the new one. And so when given a choice between two products that do the same thing, one of which offer privacy and the other one doesn't, my fundamental belief is that today people would switch. They'll switch because we got to this inflection point where people now realize that there is so much data about them out there that their entire life could be ruined if anybody could access that. I think what happened in the United States with Trump, and Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, was a wake-up call to many people. It was a wake-up call that, damn, they know so much about me. They can do whatever they want with my brain. That is pretty scary. That's like an extremely dystopian future that's already happening today. This is exactly what we need for people to start changing their habits.
It really is, and it's not just scaremongering, is it? The word dystopian future came into my head as I heard you talking there, because I think we're only just beginning to realise the magnitude of how much data is out there on each and every one of us and that digital footprint that we've just let happen.
Absolutely. I think, we've been warned for years that this was going to happen. But, we were so busy just enjoying having all those services and, having everything connected that we just let it go. I think, again, I'm a hardcore privacy advocate, right? I've been talking about privacy by design way before people even started thinking this was cool. I mean, I'm not sure people think it's cool today, but it's at least a bit cooler than it was a few years ago, right? We knew this was going to happen. It's just that we didn't really have a choice because we didn't have alternatives. The technology for creating private by design products was mostly missing. We didn't have the kind of encryption we need today. We didn't have blockchain. We didn't have, the on-device capability to do all that processing. But now that we have it, now that we're able to offer, in most cases, the exact same service or product with privacy, the real question is, why isn't everybody doing it? And the only reason people are not doing it is because either they don't know how to, in which case you probably shouldn't trust them with your data, right?
Yeah.
Or their business is not to help you. Their business is to get your data. If their business is to get your data, they will never offer privacy because they will never be able to make money otherwise, right? Google and Amazon and Facebook will never be able to offer privacy because their entire business model is predicated on access to personal data. And so this is why I'm so confident that we can offer something different at Snips. It's not because we built a technology they cannot build. I mean, come on, they can do anything they want. It's because they're locked out of our strategy of privacy by virtue of their business model. Amazon, we need to shift billions in revenue to start offering privacy by design.
I'm curious, I've got to ask this. When you're outside of the office and let's say you go to a concert and you see everybody sharing footage of that concert online, or if you're at a restaurant and people taking pictures of their food and then sharing it online, and just everywhere you look, everyone's face down in their devices, sharing and collaborating with each other. Is there a side of you that thinks you're kind of locked outside of that world and you just want to wake everybody up?
I'm not against sharing purposefully, right? Yeah. I'm against tracking when it's unnecessary and when you don't know about it.
Yeah.
If I want to share a picture on Facebook because I want my friends, to know what I'm up to, that's fine. What is not fine is Facebook mining that picture to extract, my food preferences and push me, targeting or push me content based on that. That's not cool, right? The derivative information from my data and the exploitation of that is not cool, right? It's also really not very cool that I'm posting something and that I don't really have much control over it afterwards. But that at least is partly solved with GDPR. So that's a good first start. I think privacy is not about sharing nothing. Privacy is about knowing that what you're sharing is the extent at which you're exposing yourself. And that's it.
So we know all the problems, we know what we are setting out to achieve here, but can you offer some kind of roadmap or brief timeline of how you intend to get to that place?
So today at Snips, we have built all the machine learning, voice assistant technology. It's already there. We're selling it to other businesses as a B2B software solution. We already have a community of 16,000 developers with all the tools necessary for people to build apps that they can publish on the store. What remains for us to build is the consumer side of things, the consumer app store, the consumer experience of, talking to a device that integrates Snips, and of course, all the blockchain-based features. We're probably going to be ready by next summer. This is kind of the timeline we have in mind, but we're going to be releasing updates and things over time. We have a very, let's say, agile approach to things. We're not just going to be in stealth mode and then release everything in a year. We're going to build things and release them over time and test them with our community. And that includes tokenomics. For example, we already have today an app store that is being used by our developer community to share apps between developers. This app store already has a token implemented. So we're already experimenting with different tokenomics for the App Store, for example. So even before we started our token sale, our token already had a first utility. And this is really the mindset we're trying to bring. We're trying to use the best practices of product design and the best practices of, how to build a product in a company and apply that to, our decentralized voice assistant.
Fantastic. Well, a huge thank you for coming on today. But before I do let you go, can I just ask that you remind the listeners of where they can stay up to speed with all your latest developments and how you're getting on, and also maybe contact your team, or just if they have any questions at all that they want to send your way?
Of course. So we have, our website is Snips.ai. We're currently starting a token sale at token.snips.ai. We have a pretty active Telegram group called Snips AI, SNIPS Air. I'm very easy to find. Despite the fact that I'm a big privacy advocate, I've actually made myself very easy to find because I want everybody to know about privacy. So you can find me on Telegram, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, at Rand Hindi.
Fantastic. Well, there's so many big talking points from our conversation there, and I'm still trying to get my head around like devices like Alexa and why you wanted to destroy it, because it's not there to help you, it's there to target you. And I'll be very interested to hear what the listeners think of everything that we've discussed today. But more than anything, I wish you the best of luck for the future. Let's get you back on in 6 to 12 months' time. Tell me how you're getting on. And thanks for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was great.
Wow. Consider my mind officially blown. When you see a headline of why I want to destroy Alexa, you could be forgiven for thinking clickbait, move on. But there is so much more to Rand and his story than that. And for me, he spoke pure common sense and has certainly made me question my relationship with technology and my myriad of devices. Because we're now living in the age of personalisation of absolutely everything, because it will make our lives easier. And sacrificing our privacy for convenience, it seems like an okay trade. But what happens when them algorithms know much more about you and actually begin to know you better than you know yourself? So much so that they can spoon feed you information on your channel of choice, knowing exactly how you will react and maybe share that controversial post. Suddenly, we are in the realms of being manipulated by the tech that is supposed to help us. Food for thought indeed. And today's topic will and is affecting each and every one of us. And I want to pass the microphone over to you now. So leave me a virtual voicemail by going to my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. Go to podcasts. You'll find a big red button where you can record me a message. Send me a quick email, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. I really, really want to hear your thoughts on this one because it's a fascinating subject. So thanks for joining me on today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I also hope it made you think about things just that little bit differently. Because diversity of thought and freedom from algorithms seems like a sensible approach to me. So let me know your opinions, your insights, and I'll return tomorrow with another great guest. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.